Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom to the 12 tribes of Yashala, giving of course all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah. That's all praises, honor, and glorification unto the Most High God, Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, Mahashiach Malak Yahweh Shah, the righteous. All right. So this is going into putting off the flesh, fighting Satan, right, and ultimately, trying to win the battles that Satan is going to put us in, right? That Satan is going to want to fight. Against us, right? Against our spirit, namely, right? And I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 16. All right, I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 16. I'm going to start at verse 21, right? Because this one, basically Satan was trying to get at Yahweh Shah. This is one of the times when Satan was trying to actually get at Yahweh Shah and cause him to go off, right? Because remember, Yahweh Shah, he was tempted, man. All right, let's get that in the book of Hebrews. All right, let's go to Hebrews chapter 3, I believe. All right, it's like Hebrews chapter 2. All right, this is the book of Hebrews chapter 2, verse 18. For in that he himself hath suffered being tempted, he is able to secure them that are tempted. Right, so Yahweh Shah, he was tempted. All right, so now him knowing what that temptation feels like, him going through those same temptations, right? Because like it says in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, there have no temptation taken you, but such is common to man, right? So him going through those temptations, now he's able to comfort those that are tempted. That's why the Lord said, hey, I know thy works in tribulation, right? He knows our tribulations. He knows our what we go through because he literally went through that, right? I'm referring to Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. Yahweh Shah, he was tempted, man, right? Temptations beyond even what we cannot comprehend, right? Temptations that we don't even be tempted with, right? Because remember, Yahweh Shah was on a higher level than us. But let's go to Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 15. It says what? For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. So Yahweh Shah was tempted in all points like us, but he was still without sin. That's the power of Yahweh Shah right there. That's basically the strength and the power, like I already said, right? The strength and the willpower, right? That's a better word. The willpower of Yahweh Shah, because he was tempted in all points. He was tempted all different kinds of way, right? All different types of temptations. But he was still without sin, right? So that should motivate us to basically fight off Satan, like how Yahweh Shah fought off Satan, man. Just like how Yahweh Shah could deny himself. Just like how Yahweh Shah could deny his flesh, right? Let's go to Matthew 16, verse 21. From that time forth began Yahweh Shah to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. So Yahweh Shah was telling his disciples that, look, he had to be delivered up to the chief priests, the elders, and scribes. He had to be beaten. He had to be tortured. You know what I'm saying? He had to go through all this, right? And then be killed and be raised again the third day, right? Verse 22. This is what Peter said, though. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. So Peter said, look, Lord, you don't have to go through that. You don't have to go and die for the nation of Israel, Be it far from you, right? Meaning that, look, let that be far from you. Let that never happen to you. God forbid that happens to you. That's what Peter was saying to Yahweh Shah. But this was how Yahweh Shah responded, right? Verse 23. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. So he literally straight up rebuked Peter, right? Now, Peter, look, he's speaking this because Satan hopped on Peter for him to be saying this, right? Satan hopped on Peter, which provoked him to say this to Yahweh Shah, to tempt Yahweh Shah. Remember, Satan, he can use any avenue that the Most High allows him to, right? To tempt us. He can go through the TV, then social media, right? He can get to us through women, through men, right? Through our parents, through your children, through anything Satan can try to tempt you, right? And cause you to err, right? So Satan hopped on Peter, who was Yahweh Shah's right-hand man, right? Even in the same chapter, the Lord gave Peter basically and told Peter that he's going to be the rock of the church. That's why Peter is, when you read Matthew chapter 4, it says Simon called Peter. All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 4, right? Matthew chapter 4 and verse 18. And Yahushua walking by the Sea of Galilee, and saw two brethren, Simon called Peter. So Peter's real name is Simon in the Hebrew, right? That's his Hebrew name, Simon, right? Which is basically Simeon, right? Who was one of the sons of Jacob, right? One of the 12 tribes. So, Simon called Peter. What is Peter? Peter in the Greek means, goes back to the Greek word Pedros, right? Which means rock or stone, right? Because Peter was called Peter because he was called the rock of the church, meaning the foundation, right? And Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, they were fishers, right? But let's go back to this Matthew chapter 16, verse 23. It says, but he turned and said unto Peter, get thee hence, Slaki, get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me. Thou savorest not, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. So he straight up told Peter, because he saw Satan talking through Peter, right? And he said, get thee behind me, Satan, right? For thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest the things that be of God, but those that be of men. I mean, you're talking about the stuff that pertains to men. You're talking about the stuff that pleases men. You're talking about the stuff, that pleases my flesh, right? I got to deny myself, right? I got to do the will of my Father, right? Verse 24, then said Yahushua unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So if we want to follow Yahushua, we really have to deny ourselves, man, right? We have to deny our flesh, man, right? If we want to follow Yahushua, right? Let's go to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1, right? It says, I therefore the prisoner of the Lord. See, that's you denying yourself, right? If you're calling yourself a prisoner of the Lord, a servant of the Lord, you are literally denying yourself, right? It says, I therefore the prisoner of the Lord. Because a prisoner can't do what the hell they want, right? A prisoner is in prison. In prison, you are restricted from doing certain things. That's evident. You're restricted from going certain places. You're restricted from eating what you want to eat. You know what I'm saying? You're restricted from, you are under every command of the ward, right? And the ward is symbolic for Yahushua, right? And we're the prisoners, right? Because we're held captive to Yahushua, right? On another fold. It says, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called, right? What is the vocation? The vocation is talking about your life calling, right? Like basically your job, right? Let's get this definition, right? Right, so you're calling your life's work, your mission, your purpose, right? So Paul is admonishing us that we have to walk in our vocation, right? We have to do our job. We have to walk in our lives' work, you know what I'm saying? Walk worthy of that, meaning do it to your best ability, do it to your best extent, be on fire for the Lord, you know what I'm saying? Let's go to the book of, hold on, this is Ephesians 3, right? Hold on, no. Right, let's go to Colossians. No, that's not Colossians. That's not Colossians, right? This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 1, right? It says, be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, right? So we have to be followers of the Most High. We have to be followers of Yahushua as well, right? But what does that mean? We have to deny ourselves then, right? If we want to really follow Yahushua, we have to deny ourselves, right? Let's go to the book of Galatians, because we would be doing certain stuff. If we weren't called in this truth, we would be doing certain stuff. We would be sinning on a daily, you know what I'm saying? We would be breaking the Sabbath, man, you know? We would be committing certain sins if it wasn't for Yahweh Bashim, Yahushua, to call us into this truth and give us that Holy Spirit, right? And that will compel us to start keeping these laws, statutes, commandments, and start denying ourselves. When you keep the commandments, you deny yourself, right? Plain upon tables. When you keep the commandments, when you follow the Lord, because when you follow the Lord, that means you have to do as he said. Because hold on, let me go back to this, right? Ephesians 5:1. This is actually heavy scripture, right? A lot of Christians, they just read over this, man, not knowing what Paul is actually saying, because it says, "Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children." Let's go into the let's go to the Greek for this, right? Ephesians 5:1 for followers, right? It's let me just play it.
Strong's G 3402 mimetes. Mimetes.
So mimetes, right? And it says an imitator, right? An imitator. So literally what Paul is saying is that we have to imitate Mahashiach Yahushua. What did Mahashiach Yahushua do when he was walking the earth? He was denying himself. He was keeping every single commandment of his Father, right? He was being on fire 24/7, man. So that's how we imitate Mahashiach Yahushua. That's how we follow Yahushua, right? By denying ourselves, keeping the commandments. Because keeping the commandments goes hand in hand with denying yourself, you know? Because let's get this in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 16. It says what? "This I say, then walk in the Spirit, and you should not fulfill the lust of the flesh." So if we walk in the Spirit all the time, right, being filled with the Spirit, right, like it says in the book of Ephesians, right, chapter 5 and verse, right, Ephesians 5 and, let's get that verse, right, filled with the Spirit, hold on now. I want to find this. Okay, hold on now. Wait, I want to find this. Okay, find Ephesians 5:18. All right, just looked over it. All right, all praises. It says, "And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit." So we have to be filled with the Spirit, man. If we're always walking in the Spirit, then the lust of the flesh is not going to take hold of us, right? It makes sense. If we're always in the Spirit, there's no time for pleasing the flesh, right? The fleshly desires that cause us to go off, right? Because, of course, your fleshly desires and your fleshly lusts are not necessarily always bad, right? You can lust after an apple. You can lust after some cheese pizza, right? That's not unlawful. That's not a sin. But if you're lusting after things that are unlawful, right? If you're lusting after things that are unlawful, like married women, hey, that's going the hell off. That's literally adultery, according to the book of Matthew chapter 5, right? Yahushua said that's literally adultery if you're lusting after another man's wife, right? And if you're lusting after the woman, right, to look after her, right, and lusting in your heart, in our hearts for her, hey, that's literally a sin. You know what I'm saying? That's going off. So if we're always walking in the Spirit, we're not going to do that, because there's no time to please the unlawful lusts of our flesh, right? It's like Galatians 5:16. "This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you should not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to another, so that you cannot do the things that ye would." So that you cannot do the things that ye would. You would, right, break the Sabbath. You would commit sin, right? You would do that. But guess what? You're not going to do it because you are walking in the Spirit, because you are following Yahushua, because you are denying yourself, right? Denying yourself. Let's go back to this in Matthew chapter 16. Matthew 16 verse 24. "Then said Yahushua unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it." You know, and that goes into the elect as well, right? What are the elect doing? Let's go to Revelation chapter 12 and verse 11. "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death." These elect men that overcame the world, right? These men that overcame the world, right? By the blood of the Lamb, right? hey, they loved not their lives until death. They hated their lives, man, right? And Yahweh Shah told us to hate our life as well. That's in the book of Luke chapter 14, right? That's literally denying yourself, right? And a big example of denying yourself, right? Not a crucial, but rather a very good example of denying yourself is looking at Yahweh Shah. Looking at Yahweh Shah, because he denied himself all the time, man, right? And also as well as Paul, right? Because let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1. Now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. So Paul was like, hey, it's good for a man not even to touch a woman, man, right? Because Paul was that on fire, right? He didn't even have a wife. Paul was basically a eunuch through the Spirit, right? He literally denied himself, right? His whole ministry, He did not have a wife, right? Verse 2, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. But he's like, hey, but to y'all, what I'm saying, in order for you to avoid fornication, in order for you to avoid going off, right, just marry, let a man have his wife, let a wife have her husband, right, to avoid going off, to avoid committing adultery, to avoid committing fornication, right, and getting with the one, like, for example, a man getting with a woman, right, and just for one night and then just leaving. No, that's going the hell off, right? That's fornication, right? And then let's go back to this. Let's go down, right? Verse 7, it says, for I would that all men were even as myself. He's like, hey, Paul's like, hey, I wish every man was on fire like me, bro, right? And, Paul didn't exalt himself like that, but he knew that he was laboring hella, right, through the Spirit, of course. He was laboring a lot, right? Because guess what? He remained unmarried. So he had a lot of time on his hands. He didn't have kids. He didn't have a wife, right? He was always occupied in doing the work of the Most High, right? So literally, what I'm saying, he didn't really have a lot of stuff that was slowing him down, right? It says, but for I would that all men were even as I myself, but every man have his proper gift of God, one after this manner, another after that. And he's like, but again, because Paul's like, if it was up to me, we would all be laboring fervently for the Lord, man, right? And we wouldn't even be worried about getting married and whatnot. But Paul on the flip side, he said, but every man have his proper gift of God, every man, and he understood that every man is not going to be like him, right? Not every man is going to be an apostle. Not every man is going to be on fire like how Paul was laboring. You know what I'm saying? Every man have his proper gift of God, right? Like it says in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, right? Or it might be Salaki. Salaki, where is this at? 1 Corinthians. All right. I'm gonna look it up, right? Okay, all praise. This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 29. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Are all workers of miracles? Have all the gifts of healing? And do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? Right? Meaning, does everybody have the same lot and same job in this truth? No. Everybody's going to be on a slightly different level, right? So that's what Paul was going into when he said that. Right? Not every Israelite is going to be an apostle. Not every Israelite in this truth, not every Israelite man in this truth is going to be a prophet. You know what I'm saying? There's different levels. And that's what Paul was going into when he said that, right? But it says 1 Corinthians 7 and verse 8, right? I say, therefore, to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. He said, hey, to the unmarried and to the widows, just, hey, don't even worry about, marrying, man. Right? Just stay unmarried, so you can be on fire, right? So that you can labor more abundantly, so that you can have more time on your hands and give it to the Lord, right? Verse 9, but if they cannot contain, meaning that, let's say they keep, lusting, they keep going off, right? If they cannot contain, right, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. It's better to marry than to just burn in your lust, And sometimes you do need that significant other to bury that lust, to really just get rid of it, you know what I'm saying? And to lessen it significantly. But for some men, like Paul, he was able to deny himself, right? He was able to deny himself and have control over his spirit, right? Like it says, let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24, right? I'm going to just skip down to verse 26. I therefore so run not as uncertainly, so fight I, not as one that beateth the air. But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. So Paul was like, look, right? I keep under my body and bring it into subjection. I bring my body into subjection, I tell my flesh what to do, right? I tell my body what to do, I tell my thoughts what to think, and that's not going to happen all the time. But sometimes you can have certain control over your mind, over your thoughts, if we meditate more and more. You know what I'm saying? But of course, that mind, the thoughts are just going to be random, right? They're going to just pop up out of nowhere, right? That's Satan. You know what I'm saying? But really, that's what I'm trying to get to, right? Paul was able to deny himself to a certain extent, man, to the point where he didn't even have a wife to the day of his death, man, doing the work of the Lord, and it's not even going into just having a wife, but, just being able to labor fervently, being hungry, still writing epistles, man, traveling from to and fro, right? Not getting enough sleep, you know what I'm saying? Being in the cold, enduring all the elements, enduring the afflictions. That's all also denying yourself. Because at any moment, Paul could just say, hey, I give up, bro, right? And just went back into the world like some men did, right? Even in this, as Paul says in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 10, right? It says, for Demas have forsaken me, having loved this present world. Because this present world, it has a lot to offer in wickedness, pleasure. What do you want to do? Comfort, right? Comfort, but not on the right-hand side, but on the left-hand side, right? That's what this world has to offer. Oh, you don't have to labor. You don't have to go out there, right, on the Sabbath days and preach. You know what I'm saying? Hey, just chillax. Go to the pool. Go swimming. You know what I'm saying? Chillax at your house, right? Watch the damn football game. You know what I'm saying? That's what this present world has to offer, But really, when we look at the totality of it, right, and in the end, it's all vanity, right? And we really want that. We want that everlasting rest that the Lord speaks about, man, in the book of Hebrews chapter 4. We want that everlasting rest, the kingdom of heaven, right? That's what rest we're trying to get, right? But but with that, it was just going into denying the flesh. And right, I'm gonna just read this one more time, right, in the book of Matthew, right, to close it out, right? Matthew chapter 16 and verse number 24, right? It says, then said Yahushua unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me, man. So that all praises to Yahushua, Lord willing, this is edifying, right? Let's keep enduring this thing. All praises to Yahushua again, right? Shalom.